we're in the process of getting petitions right now so that we can petition to be on the ballot in 2022. Melanie and I are co-proponents on that, and are excited everybody's here tonight to gather around that cause, and also decriminalizing plant medicines in Boulder. And yeah, do you want to say anything real quick, Melanie?
Just want to thank you all for being here, for showing up today. And I also want to thank the Riverside for giving us a space. And so have a beautiful, and all the vendors that are upstairs and downstairs. There's a silent auction. But thank you all so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. And I'm going to say a big thanks to Rumsey, who organized pretty much 99% of all of this. If you want to come up and say anything, you're welcome to, okay?
Yeah, so basically, this is the community showing up. This is the Boulder community. This is friends and family. This is the people. We are the people. And just take a look around and, acknowledge that this is it, guys. And this would not have happened if it wasn't for people stepping up and volunteering and offering to be vendors, offering to donate to the silent auction. Basically, like 90% of everything here tonight was donated. People are just down with the cause, and this is something we're all passionate about. This is something that we can really get activated about, and it's gonna be a great night, guys. A couple things of housekeeping. Number one is we have vendor stations all throughout the premises. There's the back room over there. There's lots of vendors in the back room. Don't forget to go in the back room. We also have vendors upstairs. Don't forget to go upstairs. There's a little stairwell right here. There are some amazing vendors upstairs. So please remember to take the time and go see what's going on up there. And then we have the silent auction along the window right here. So many amazing products on the silent auction. Like I want to bid for half of them myself. But yeah, take the time to check out the silent auction, and basically 90% of the silent auction is completely donated. So all the proceeds go to Decriminalize Nature Boulder. And yeah, if you see something, be generous, feel free to bid. Also, they're selling drinks and food at the bar. Whatever you purchase at the bar goes to cover the cost of the venue, and if we reach a certain quota, the venue will be free for us. So buying things at the bar really helps out the fundraiser for the night. So please, enjoy the bar, and yeah, let's have a fun night, guys, and let's decriminalize nature.
Thank you. We're going to start off with a land honoring done by Yoloteo and Katumi up here at the front, and then we'll move on to hearing a speech from Rachel, who's over here. You're also vending tonight, right? Okay, so yeah, go check her out. Where are you vending? Upstairs. Go check her out upstairs. Yeah, and then right after that, I'll kind of wrap us up with another short little speech about what we're here to do. So I will let you guys get started on that.
Good evening, everyone. Newanatokan and Reyolateo Chalchiwi. The first thing that I would like to ask you all is to circle up as much as you can. We're going to make a circle.
So maybe if you come closer, even if you come closer, we do a few circles around. The closer you are, the closer we're, the better. Yeah, people in the back, if you all want to come a little closer, it's okay. We're 2-3 lines.
Excuse me, sorry. I want to invite you to really ground on your feet. Really be present for this moment. Land acknowledgement has become a speech lately. And we need to understand what we're really doing here. So, first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Open. Go ahead and close your eyes. I want to say thank you to the spirits of this land, to the spirit of the water, of the fire, of the trees, and every single living being that exists on these lands. I want to say thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to communicate amongst each other, and may honor us to understand each other with an open heart, with the mission that we have here to defend the plants, first of all. We must acknowledge that we are on lands where there has been a lot of massacres. We must acknowledge the food that used to be provided to the indigenous people through these lands, through the buffalo nations, through the berries, through the fish that run through these creeks, through these waters, that are no longer accessible to the indigenous people because of the genocide that has occurred and the slow violence that continues to occur. I want to acknowledge too the privilege that each and every one of us have, and we may represent through the class that we represent and the peoples that we represent. So bringing awareness on the land that is sacred here for indigenous people. And for the original indigenous people that used to care here for these lands, the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Shoshone, Ute, and my peoples, the Aztec, that used to come here. I want to ask permission for these spirits too, for us to be able to speak on their behalf with all the respect, because we're trying to just bring awareness to the indigenous way. Ometeo. And I'm going to invite my brother Kutumi to offer, he's going to offer an Icaro song from the south, medicinal plant that is being used commonly here, a lot from the Boulder community, from the plant of the ayahuasca.
Good. I also wanted to introduce Amanda, Gavi, Felicia, and Teddy, also representing different lineages from these lands. That's good.
Wish the Babai, wish the Mamai, wish the Pachikal, wish the Mamai, Pachamam, wish the. Wish to Pachamama, wish to Mamita, felicito para estar aquí, ancestros de estas tierras indígenas, de estas tierras, hermanitos, hermanitas, abuelitos, wish to mamá, wish to papá, wish to abuelo, Arapaho, wish to Spiritito, Arapaho, wish to Spiritito, Cheyenncito, wish to, Arapaho, wish to, Cheyenncito, youth, wish to mamá, wish to papá, abuelitos, wish to. Wisturi, yachari, 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 shayensi, chachari, 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 we, yachari, shayensito, wachuri, ye, spiriti, yachari, yiteyu, yachari, spiriti, tatori, we. We Arapaho, Yacharin, we Arapaho, Shacharin, wished, we abueliti, permisitori, Wishtoring, Arpahinuring, Nuring, Wishtoring, Shayasi Turing, Yutayuturi, Indetenaring, Wish to the fight, wish to the wish to the wish to the fight, wish, 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 wish. Wish to, wish to, wish to, money to wish to, wish to, wish, ay, mama, itma, ay, patayta, wish to, inka, wish to, inti, wish to, abuelito, pachamama, wish to, wish.
Mateo, thank you. Who's next to speak? Thank you. Now we honor the land. The land has a spirit, so we need to be aware of that. So whomever, is doing land acknowledgement, I hope that if anything, you can take that today with your hearts, in your hearts, so you can understand what it really represents to do a land acknowledgement. It's not only words, it's representation, but it's also acknowledging really the living beings that are here. I'm at that. Thank you. Who's going to speak next? I don't know whenever you want to speak.
Okay, yeah. Cool. We can close the circle now. All right, and if we don't want to, that's fine. Hang on, let me jump in here. Okay, so Decriminalize Nature was founded, was it 2 years ago? Boulder, Decriminalize Nature Boulder, was it 2 years ago?
Valentine's Day 2020.
Valentine's Day 2020, Decriminalize Nature Boulder was founded by Nicole, and it kind of went into hiatus because of COVID and other things, but now we are officially kicking back into full gear. It's on, guys, it's on. The movement is on. We are not gonna stop until we win. And the way we're gonna do that is we are basically gonna what we're doing now, we're creating a movement. This is the movement. This is the first step of the movement. We're here, and then it's only uphill from here. So that being said, we have a couple projects that we have in mind for how to accomplish our goal of decriminalizing nature here in Boulder. The first thing that we're doing is we have an email campaign where we are going to we're going to get people in the community, you guys, to send emails to the members of City Council, and we're just going to bug the hell out of City Council. We're going to get somebody to send an email to them twice a day, 3 times a day for weeks straight, months straight, until they get the message that this is something that we care about, this is something that needs to happen. Number 2, we are doing a video testimonial campaign. If you or a loved one has a story about how entheogens, plant medicines, psychedelics, whatever you call them, if you have a story of how they have impacted you, how they have helped you, and you're comfortable with this video being shown to City Council, we are taking in 2 to 5 minute videos that will only be shown. The only people that will see these videos are going to be our team and City Council, so it'll be private. So yeah, if you're comfortable sitting down on camera and recording 2 to 5 minute video explaining how entheogens have helped you, why you believe in decriminalization, we're going to collect all these videos and then we're going to send them to City Council. And then finally, I think I have all of your emails from the sign-up sheets for this event, so we're going to add you guys to the mailing list so you guys can stay up to date on the different functions and events and strategy things we have planned. So just stay on the lookout, follow Decrim Nature Boulder on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, get on the mailing list. And yeah, get ready because the ball has started rolling. The train has left the station and there's no stopping it. And we're not gonna stop until we win. And yeah, and a couple more acknowledgements of the night. I want to thank Tree Fort for doing the sound wherever you are, Tree Fort. This amazing sound system is the handiwork of Tree Fort. I want to thank all of the performers who have signed up to perform tonight. I genuinely think these are some of the best and most talented musicians in Boulder. And I am so honored to have the best of the best here tonight. I want to thank all the people that donated to the silent auction. A few more acknowledgements that are kind of evading me, but if I remember, I'll just grab the mic and I'll say them. But yeah, let's have a fun night tonight and be respectful. Just fill the room with love, fill the room with positive energy, and just soak in the momentousness of the night, because this is a movement, guys, and we're getting it started, we're getting the ball rolling, and it's on. It's on.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you for the ones that want to keep the form, of the circle. That's like a traditional way on how we actually speak and we talk, and we do that because we believe, we are all part of a circle. We all believe, in the indigenous ways that we are part of something. So I'm here, we were invited to speak tonight to help, represent the indigenous voices, indigenous people here. And as I said, I want to honor first that one of the traditional, people here are not here present, my sister Beverly, which is, Arapaho and Ute herself, and she's not able to be here tonight. So we're speaking on, her behalf, and also hoping, that you all understand the message that we're trying to come across with. So we are asking for, Decriminalize Nature to really help us to pass the message, to understand first. We want to ask for people to start naming these plants, by their name, which is plant medicines, and it's not psychedelics, really. The formulas, the circular form that we heal is our indigenous way. And while we understand, that this movement is trying to prevent people to stop them to go incarcerated, I want you to think about all the people that has died. You probably don't know that, but there's a lot of people that has died from our people to keep these traditions alive. And there's a lot of our people that has been murdered in ceremony for defending the plants and our ceremonies. If we don't stop New Approach is bringing a form of policy that is actually, harming us, because it's saying that only people that are going to be certified medically are going to be allowed to do the treatment with the plants. And that's totally dismissive of indigenous ways. So we're asking from, Decriminalization Nature to really not tokenize us and to really work with us in a participatory way. And that means to advocate for indigenous ways to be preserved, for indigenous ways to continue to offer that healing in a circular form, because that's how we heal. So we're really asking for our voice to be heard, because we have been asking for the process to be slowed down, and we don't feel heard. And we are thanking, this opportunity to be able to speak and to represent the ones that are trying to reclaim the indigeneity that we have within. And you may not know how to do participatory, reparational processes. And it's not only with money, let me tell you, but it's also getting involved to get the community and building trust of a systematic oppression that has betrayed us for so long. So we're hoping that some of you could help in a way that is not going to harm and is not going to be, using only a way of monetary help to use this movement, but also to find out how you can get involved to repair the damage that generational trauma has caused in our people. So we thank you for this opportunity, and we're hoping to bring that awareness so we can work together for the healing. The way that society is right now is a reflection of the illness that the earth has at the moment. The plants, the sacred plants, are nothing but an aid for us to understand what is beyond our view and to help us to open our hearts and our view to see what is there all the time. We must respect them. We don't want the commercialization to be happening as it happened with, the spirit of the hemp and the cannabis. So decriminalizing nature is really to get it to understand it for what it is. Thank you.
And I'm gonna ask everybody if we can come a little closer, still keeping the circle, but closer and closer. And also, I'd like everybody to go down. And I'm feeling really cold. If it's okay, we close the door, we'll be really good.
Stand back. Sorry.
It's probably not the right stand, but we'll make it work. So thank you, Yoda. Thank you everybody. Thank you everybody for coming. What I'm gonna speak about, I don't know. Let's see what the spirit wants. I think I want to take it from what Yoloteo was mentioning. One thing that is important for me and also for a lot of our indigenous communities, and also knowing that I speak for myself as an indigenous person, mestizo person coming from the south. I come from the Quichua people, descended from the Inca people. And I'm a Yahuasquero from the south as well. And so I don't speak for all indigenous, I speak as one of them. And one of the things that I wanted to mention, it's understanding really that as we're here standing with everybody, to really see us, we experience a lot of tokenization, and I don't know if you understand that, the meaning of that, but usually we get invited to places sometimes, and there's spaces for us to bring ourselves and to show up and speak for our own experience and our relationship to nature, to spirit, and all that. And a lot of the times what happens with tokenization is that people create spaces for us to bring in that piece of indigeneity, but they don't really want to hear us. Because a lot of times the teachings and what we speak and our own experience really triggers a lot for people, and I want you to be open to receive what we have here to share today, so that we don't feel tokenized and that we also feel really invited, that your heart is really open into us, to yourself and to us, and understanding that a lot of our experiences and my own experience, it's in the relationship to nature and to the spirit, One of the pieces that I have speak usually in spaces like these and also when I hold ceremonies, to really understand that as we're stepping into more working with medicines, with sacred medicines, it's not just a particular plant or a particular medicine that have psychoactive effects in our bodies and in our minds, but we're developing a relationship to the spirit of that particular plant and the allies, the other plants that work together with it. And as a curandero, In my culture, what we know as curanderismo is when we learn and we're being invited to hold the space of mediating the spirit realm and the physical realm, so that when we're in ceremony or when we're working with plant medicines, we're not only caring for the physical realm or for the people that are receiving the healing, but we're also caring for the spirit that is coming in. We're always in reciprocity. And that's another piece that I wanted to mention. When we open these spaces with land acknowledgement, I like to call it honoring, because it's something that it's not something that you just acknowledge and say, but it's your relationship to those particular spirits. The Arapaho people, the Cheyenne, the Ute, they're here. They're here in the trees, they're here in the water, they're here in the animals, they're everywhere. They're in the mountains. So even though a lot of the physical representation of their culture has been displaced, their spirit is still here and is calling them back. And my hope is that as we move forward with these reparations, is that our siblings start coming back to their own land, where they really belong. So again, taking that, understanding that as a curandero, you and everybody else who's awakening to that call, you want to start developing a relationship to spirit. Medicine is not something that you take. Medicine is a living being. You want to have a relationship to the spirit, you want to have a relationship to the medicine. And also understanding that even though there's a big pull for psychoactive plant medicines, the medicines are just portals to some extent. But the medicine is here all the time, is in the spirit realm. We don't really need to have all these medicines like take them in. If you have a relationship, you feel them, the spirits are like everywhere, right? So my sister here was speaking last time that when you want to open your heart, that's medicine already. And that you don't need to access and take the plant medicines to be able to have access to that. So understanding again that if you feel the pull, but even though it might not be the right approach, that you still have access to a lot of what's happening in the unseen world. There's a lot of things that are happening that we're not very present to that. And hopefully with time, as you continue to do your own good work, that you start opening to those realms. That's something that colonization took away from all of us. It really caught our roots. It really caught our connection to the earth. So because we don't have roots, even myself, I was born in the city. Even though I started my curanderismo part when I was 12, I still experienced many of my own roots, my own cultures that had been taken away from me. So it was a long journey for me, guided by my elders to come back home. And home, the first home is my body. That's my first land. And that's where I need to start decolonizing my mind, my body, and the way I speak, the way I walk, because this is my first sovereignty, right? This is the land that I have. This is the land of Pachamama, Mother Earth. So I need to take care of my body. I need to take care of my heart. And so understanding that, again, coming back that, yes, there's so many medicines and we want to create more access to people to these medicines, also realizing that the medicine is already here. And start praying. Praying is so important for us as Indigenous people to start calling in, to start allowing ourselves to heal so that we can hear and we can see, So that's a piece that I wanted to share, and really continue to do your own work and your personal work, but also understanding that the personal work is not only your own work. Anything you do with yourself, you're healing your own ancestry, you're healing your own generational trauma. So really understanding that generational trauma also goes together with healing, generational healing. So bringing awareness that as you do your work, and yes, you want to focus on yourself and bring it into your own work, but also understanding that it's not just you who's healing, it's a community who's healing. And really taking that to the community. So when you are in a relationship to plant medicines, that you understand that anything that you do will have an impact. And you might have a different intention, but always double check with the impact, what's happening around you. Because at the end of the day, we're not alone. We're here together. And we want to move in circle. That's why my sister was mentioning, we like to sit in circle. We don't like hierarchies. And even though there's so many hierarchies in nature, but we're gonna come back to a humble place where we're not better than anyone else. We're just here to share. We're here to experience life, you know, and be in service. That's a big piece. When we take, because we have been caught our roots, it's a little bit of like when you've been deprived from food for a long time, the hunger is so strong that the first thing is like you want to just take, and when you take food, you're like shoving it in, you know, like eating so quickly, and you don't realize sometimes you might be like spitting water and throwing food on the side, not even saying thank you to the person who's providing food. So understanding that there is hunger for these ways, and at the same time to really finding a way to settle down inside in your heart. Again, remembering that you're not alone, first of all. The nature is here. We're nature. We're not separated. We have an illusion that we're separated. And that brings you back to like understand that you need to find a way to have a good relationship to everything that you do, to every person that is around you, right? And in that path, my prayer that I share with all of you, and I put it out to the Spirit, is that every one of you, as you continue to approach medicines, that you do it in a way that you're reclaiming, and also in a humble way, though, to connect to your own ancestry, right? And connecting to your ancestry is a lot of work. It's a lot of personal work, because you're healing you, you're healing your ancestors that came before you, and you're gonna be the ancestors for the next generations ahead. And that comes with a lot of responsibility, right? So we're not here, oh, I'm gonna heal myself because I want, but like, oh, I'm in service. I'm healing myself because the next generations are gonna benefit from what I'm doing, right? At the end of the day, I'm gonna be gone. We're gonna be gone. And whatever we do now is gonna have an impact for the next generations. So always keeping that in mind, it's a community effort. We're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for the community. You know, we have come through a long way. You know, the fact that we're here today is huge. You know, we have been deprived from these circles. We have been deprived from these spaces for a long time. And also in that piece of understanding that we're coming back to these spaces that are very privileged, that there's more space for us to speak, is beautiful. And the responsibility to always continue to be in relationship to one another, to the Spirit, and to what's happening around us all the time. Reciprocity comes in different ways, you know. So in this capitalistic way, we see it in the money way, you know. But reciprocity comes in so many different ways, because we're always in reciprocity with one another if you are in relationship. If you're not in relationship, you are colonizing the other person, like you're taking, you know, and that's where tokenization comes from. You know, that maybe there's knowledge that we're bringing in there, we're bringing our presence, and people just want to take something from us. And it's harmful, you know, it's painful. Like I feel the pain when people tokenize me, because it feels they want to take something from me because they don't have it, because they lost their roots. But the way they're doing it is not really healthy. You know, it makes me want to close down and not participate and not really bring a lot of these good teachings. You know, a lot of the things that I speak are definitely my personal experience, but it's also my relationship to Spirit and relationship to my culture and the way we're speaking this out. You know, so I speak for nature as well. You know, nature is me also, you know. So a lot of the voices that as Indigenous people we bring forward is not just us as an individual, but it's coming from nature, you know, it's coming from Mother. Mother is asking us to come back. She's been grieving us for a long, long time. The pain, in my experience, the pain that we feel, the grievance that we all have because we've been caught from our roots is so strong. And it's not just our grievance, it's her grievance. And actually allowing yourself to feel the grievance, it's a reminder that she's grieving you, and then you can allow yourself to be with her in the grievance, and remembering that you're not alone, you're with her. You're with the feminine, that is the co-creator, you know, it's the womb, right? So this planet Earth is a womb, and we're here, we're being rebirthed in different ways to come back home, right? So remembering also that everything that you go, all the overwhelming feelings, it's part of that journey of coming back home. And that's why there's so much emphasis to feel, you know. When you deprive yourself from feeling, it means somebody else is gonna have to feel, whether consciously or unconsciously, right? So not to put everything on the other person is by you taking your own ownership of your own feelings and opening yourself to the heart so that you do your work and you come back to that process of like, oh, you're in service, you're helping people to start to feel, right? So that reciprocity comes into creating a space, talking to us, seeing us, asking us questions, you know, in a humble way, and also respecting our elders. The reason we're all here today is because Indigenous elders. These medicines have been safeguarded, protected from our elders, for our elders for a long time, and many of our elders have actually died for this. You know, we don't take it lightly. The reason I'm here today, and I do have a lot of privileges, is because my ancestors have put their lives so that I can have a better life, right? And that's what we're doing here, right? We really need to own who we are in these spaces so that the next generations will have a lot more privileges, and not just for a particular group, but for everybody, you know, so that we can start reshaping narratives and also the system that we're bound with at the moment, right? So that we can create more space for all of us. And in that process, one thing that I wanted to mention, there's a lot of white people here, right? And what I like to mention about that, I'm also partially white. I have family ancestors as well, Portuguese and Spanish, probably a little Italian too. And you know, in my own process, I'm really happy that I have really strong roots on my indigeneity, right? And those roots have allowed me to nurture me so that I'm healing my own whiteness, right? Because I carry both. I carry the oppressor and the oppressed, and that it's within my own self. And many of us here have mixed blood as well. So we need to come back and continue to do that internal work and see how that's being manifested outside. Right, and one piece that is important in this path of medicine, especially in these spaces that are very privileged, there's a lot of whiteness, a lot of colonial mentality, is that as you continue to connect to nature, also you need to heal your ancestry and not just knock the doors to go back to the good white ancestry from Europe, not only to the indigenous roots from Europe, but also you need to heal everything that came after that. You know, and one of the strongest pieces of in my journey is like to understand that as a white person as well, when I continue to knock doors to my own indigeneity in Europe, what I've realized is that my indigeneity in Europe doesn't trust me, doesn't really trust us. Because in the history in Europe, we caught ourselves, like we sort of self-mutilate our own ancestry. So like the real roots from white people are deep, are really strong, but like they're so down on the earth and they're like checking us out, you know, because they're not trusting us because we kill ourselves. We took our roots, we took our cultures, right? So before they fully open up to us to reconnect in that medicine that we want to feel, we also want to do the good work of like understanding that our latest white ancestry really caused a lot of harm and continues to cause a lot of harm through the system, you know. So really holding yourself accountable and in a responsible way to continue to heal those recent white ancestry that caused so much harm, and that we still feel the leftovers, you know, we're still like recovering a lot of what they caused, right? So don't bypass, that's a big piece. I've seen a lot of people trying to bypass that, you know. I sit with a lot of white people in my ceremonies and in other circles too, and I see many of them, and even, you know, mixed blood people who have indigeneity, who have been brought up in the cities, that are like disconnected from their ancestry. And, you know, we're in ceremony and they're like, oh, calling their ancestors, you know, they talk about their ancestors, you know. And I'm like, are you aware of what you're doing? Are you doing the healing work of the recent ancestry too? And a lot of times people like, wait for a moment. It's a little shocking because a lot of people don't want to do that work. A lot of white people don't want to do that work because it's painful. You know, it's really intense to understand that we come from a lot of aggression. You know, that our ancestry put us in a place that is really, really complicated. As my sister mentioned, there was a lot of massacres here, you know. And not only in the past, we're still being killed. I mean, recently we got Mexica siblings and were killed recently in December, you know. And those are not single incidents, they're very targeted, you know. And the louder we get, sometimes people don't like it. And people come and just like, because that still happens until now. You know, a lot of siblings, women continue to be raped, you know, in their reservations and outside reservations, not by people in their communities, but actually outsiders, you know. So really understanding that as we open to our medicines and to these medicines that have been safeguarded by our ancestors, indigenous ancestors in these lands, came with a lot and continue to come with a lot. So my invitation and another prayer that I want to put out here is that you join us, you know. So me, when I began my curanderismo path, you know, I was like many of us, like super excited about this. I'm like, wow, I'm really connecting. This is good. This feels so good. And I reached to a point that I was like, oh, it's not just the goodness, but it's also all the chaos. And I became an activist in my community, you know, because I realized that it's not just about taking what I like from my own people, but I also have to take everything that comes with it. We don't get to choose. We don't get to like just pick what we want, you know, because that's another form of tokenization. You know, there's a lot of people that go to the south and do ayahuasca. And they're like, oh my God, this is so good, it's healing. And I'm like, how are you being in reciprocity to them? Not just money-wise, but are you coming to us? Are you hanging out with us? Are you sharing food with us? Are you helping us with the crops? Are you helping us to grow and develop ways of like surviving and living and striving in these spaces that are like so strong for us, you know? So the prayers that you come back, not only for the good pieces, but also to help us hold what our ancestors, indigenous ancestors, have been holding for us for a long time. You know, there's a lot of work to be done. So as you continue to develop this connection and take medicines, that is not just for you, so that you can step into those communities and say, hey, how can I help? You know, and allow yourself to be guided. Our ancestors have been holding these medicines for a long time, and we know what we're doing. We really know what we're doing. And a lot of times I see people stepping into these spaces and being very entitled. You know, I took some mushrooms and like a spirit told me these, and I'm a shaman, and like, you know, like, who gave you the title? You know, at least for us, we don't self-proclaim ourselves shamans. You know, in my language is jachak. You know, we don't take it. It's actually given when we're invited to. And we're invited to after a long process of really understanding that we're not here to take, we're here to serve. And that happens in the moment that you show respect and you've done a lot of work to be able to be humble, right? So as you continue to develop a relationship to the medicines, continue also to find paths where, like, you're sitting with elders so that you're learning, right? So it's not just taking medicine at home from time to time or small groups or anything like that, but also find those elders, because we're still here. You know, there's so many elders, they're like everywhere. And my hope is that in my lineage, the ayahuasca Wachuma lineage from the south, that is not just white people facilitating spaces for healing, but the same white people and Western people that actually create spaces so that we can bring them here so that they can actually hold it for us, right? So it's creating the venue for them to come, it's facilitating the spaces, providing the money, the reciprocity, the devotion, the respect, so that they come and they do the healing with us, because they have a lot to share and we have a lot to learn. You know, so if you feel that you have learned a lot, that the medicine, you have a beautiful journey, and that the medicine tell you, oh, you're ready, you're a shaman, go and do your healing, wait for a moment. You know, wait for a moment. The medicine is really tricky. You know, when medicine is not feeling respected, the medicine will see you, will inflate your ego. It's a mirror effect. It will give you what you're looking for to the point that you burst it. Like, so that ego kind of like, you know, And then you realize that yes, at the very end, we like to say that all of us as humans we're curanderos, right? But before you can actually reach there, there's a lot of work to be done. And when you reach there, you don't need to self-proclaim yourself. Your community will see you, and they will say, you're an elder, you're a taita, you're a curandero. And then you will be like, oh, you know, so again, coming back is not about taking, but it's about being acknowledged because of the work that you're doing. So keeping an eye on that and really working through those pieces and understanding that at the end of the day, we share medicines. Like I come from the South and I sit here with a lot of my siblings. And even we think like I'm indigenous to the Americas, but like I don't come and take, you know, I hold ceremony, I hold medicine, I carry medicine with myself. I'm an outspoken person for my community, and even though I have all that, I come here and I sit very humble with them because their ways are new to me and I'm learning, you know, and we all have to do that. And understanding the land is like a house, you know, is this idea that colonization took the house of some people, indigenous people, and now because of the system, there is signs that said, do not trespass. But it's like, hey, dude, like, that's my house. That was my house before you even came here. So I'm not really trespassing, you know, but it's that whole systemic piece that keep us away or keep us locked out or like on the margins. So understanding that even though we're in the margins because the system has been dismissing us for a long time, we still belong here. And when you come to these lands, it's important to knock doors and ask permission, you know. When I offer ceremony and when we offer these events, we ask permission to elders here. You know, don't forget to do that. And not just to the spirits, but actually there's a lot of Arapaho people. There is the Ute people, Cheyenne people, and you want to connect to them and ask permission to them and see what they think. And not only that, but like if they're in agreement and they're happy that you're here doing these events and doing this work, also include them, you know, include them, invite them, you know, bring them in so that we have spaces to speak, and don't expect us to pay because this is our home. So it's really tricky, you know, it's like having to pay to be my own home. It's harmful, it's painful, you know. So I think that's as much as I wanted to speak today, and yeah, and thank you for coming, you know, thank you for doing this work and opening your heart to feel and see, you know, and I know it's challenging when you have not had the guidance, right? And I want to speak to that. The guidance has always been there and continues to be here. The system has displaced us, or the system has pushed the guidance out, because if you have the guidance, then they don't have power and control over anyone, right? So again, flip the narrative that there is no guidance. There is a lot of guidance. There's a lot of people who are actually doing a lot of beautiful work. So look for them, look for us, you know, develop a relationship and in a good way, you know. So thank you so much for this space. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
So I'm here to bridge the scientific and the spiritual worlds, and I am really happy to be here with you all today. And thank you so much for having me here, and to Decriminalize Nature Boulder for their work in supporting our right to have relation with Mother Nature legally from where we all came and upon where we all will return. And my name is Rachel Carlovell, and I also work in service to the plants on a mission to regenerate our bodies, our minds, and most importantly, the soil. As the plants have been here for thousands of years on this earth before us humans, they have immeasurable wisdom to impart. And it is not our right, but our responsibility to create these reciprocal right relations with all of nature's allies, including psychedelic and entheogenic plants, fungi, and yet to be discovered species to co-evolve in harmony. Our own human health and the health of the planet including the plant peoples, the rock peoples, and beyond, depend on these intricate relationships, all of which begin in the sacred place beneath the soles of our feet, the soil. The most sophisticated communication technology ever devised, the story, or as some call talk story, is a brilliant way to connect and share our wisdom as our ancestors did. And today I'd like to share my story of how I built reciprocal relations with these plant medicines to ultimately be here in communion with you all, with gratitude for this very life thriving. I was fortunate to align with the teachings of the plants at a young age. Growing up on the land in my community, I always had a connection with the natural world, and in college at the University of Massachusetts Amherst in 2009, I attended a course called the Shaman's Pharmacy that would change the path of my life. We spent a semester working with the Shipibo tribe of the Peruvian Amazon alongside Professor Chris Killam, also known as the Medicine Hunter, to investigate the healing benefits of plant medicine, including the vine of the soul, also known as ayahuasca. At the time, I was studying to become a doctor. However, the indigenous wisdom of our elders impacted me greatly, which resulted in me redirecting my studies towards nature-based healing rather than pharmaceutical-based medicine where profits are above patients' needs. As a pre-med undergrad, our labs were sponsored by Merck and Pfizer, where we had to measure symptoms and see what pharmaceuticals the patient needed. None of this felt right, and there was no consideration for nutrition, social and emotional needs, and most importantly, our relationship to nature. With a deep foundation in both the scientific and spiritual understandings of plant medicine, a few years later, when doctors discovered a cancerous tumor in my body, I called up my professor to see what plants he might suggest for healing. And back to the jungle we went, and that is when the first Cosmic Sister Plant Spirit Grant was born. And Cosmic Sister is an organization that supports medicine women, curanderas, wilderness, and wildlife. In conjunction with MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, I went back to study with Estela Pagosa, curandera from Iquitos, Peru, whose lineage of holding space for ayahuasca ceremony went back eons. At the Niue Rao Center with medical doctor Joe Tafour, trained in both Western and South American medicine, my professor, the Medicine Hunter, and his wife Zoe Helena, founder of Cosmic Sister, all came by my side with the hopes of rebalancing health. In the jungle, I experienced true healing with the ayahuasca plant medicine. In my personal visions, I saw the great anaconda who came into my body and began eating my tumor. It frightened me at first, and then I found her benevolent and surrendered to her plant spirit. The snake ate away at the cancer while flashing images of my families and my past with directions for moving forward in perfect health. Then these tiny green beings came. Terence McKenna calls them the machine elves, and they cut open my brain and they began to sew and restore the neurons in my body. They scanned my entire self from head to toe, levying out my heart with their little tools and inspecting every cell of my being, rejuvenating and reviving my soul. When I returned back to the States, Western doctors were astounded to find that my tumor that began out as the size of a grapefruit was now barely detectable. I worked with many forms of medicine, and I believe that this particular plant medicine had by far the biggest impact on my healing. And I stand here before you today not just to share my story, but also the story of my ancestors, particularly my father and my sister, because I believe everyone deserves the right to learn about, to understand, and to have access to every plant in nature, especially the entheogenic ones. My father was raised in the reefer madness era of demonizing plants, including cannabis and psychedelics. So when he was diagnosed with the same cancer I was, he chose the Western path of chemotherapy and refused the plant medicines that helped save my own life. Because they were not federally legal in the US, he did not want to try them. Unfortunately, he left this earthly plane only 2 short months after his diagnosis. Perhaps if nature was legal, my father would still be here today. Our grant sponsorship also included researching the impact of psychedelic plant medicines on addiction. And as a recipient of the Women of the Psychedelic Renaissance grant, we wanted to see how developing connections to nature would help. My roots are in the East Coast. I'm from Boston, where heroin and the opioid addiction is an epidemic. I grew up losing friends to accidental overdose, and it closely impacted me with my own family. At another place, the Ayahuasca Foundation in Peru, with founder Carlos Tanner, the plant medicine showed drastic reductions in anxiety and depression, as well as a potential marker for epigenetic positive therapeutic changes. Furthermore, extensive psychometric data on a range of measures suggested that it could create positive changes for all. It is hypothesized that ayahuasca has an antidepressant and anti-anxiety effect in the brain. A number of studies we conducted implied that ayahuasca may trigger growth of neuronal tissue, as well as upregulating aspects of the serotonin system. Because of these findings, I am happy to report that several of my close friends and family have found the pure path of sobriety and happiness in their lives. It is criminal to prevent the people from legally accessing Mother Nature, and not everyone has the opportunity to travel to places where the law allows for it. We need to make the medicine available for the people and keep it in the people's hands. Let's see ecosystems as a community of sovereign beings. If Maria Sabina were alive today, I ask you to wonder, would she be allowed to obtain a license to practice psychedelic psychotherapy? The answer is no, she is not qualified. And if you are not familiar with Maria's story, she is the Mazatec curandera of the Sierra Mazatec of South Mexico, whose healing psilocybe cubensis, or as she called them, the Holy Children, ceremonies were her offerings of diagnosing and curing both physical and spiritual ills. We only know of her psychedelic mushrooms today due to the CIA's mind control program, where in 1955, they funded J.P. Morgan investment banker Gordon Wesson to thieve her family's lineage of sacred medicine, also known as the MK Ultra program. After Maria opened her ceremony circle to Wesson, despite being sworn to secrecy and without her consent, he published her name, her village, her photos in Life magazine in an article titled "Seeking the Magic Mushroom." Maria was excommunicated, her house was burned down, and her son was murdered. A grave tragedy which initiated the psychedelic revolution we are amidst today. Let us not forget the ancestral lineage and the very roots of this sacred fungus, and honor the woman who sacrificed for the collective healing. The medicines must not be engaged in without ritual and ceremonial context, acknowledging their inherent sacredness. We must commit to returning severance to these medicines and expand access to healing so that we can connect back to the ancestral practice. Who now writes the law of the sacred? Who will protect the holy children? All of us here will. We must ensure that the erasure of indigenous ancestral voices is not perpetuated in mainstream plant medicine. We must honor those who sacrificed to protect and to share this medicine so that we may have the privilege of working with it today. The 4 ways of the medicine wheel see the mind, body, emotion, and spirit to understand nature with all of these 4 gifts. And as the driver of biological evolution is genetic diversity, it also requires an intellectual diversity to drive human evolution, bringing together the wisdom of indigenous ways paired with the science. Just using the scientific lens is like a monoculture. So let's instead create a knowledge garden inspired by the 3 sisters polyculture, corn, beans, and squash, creating symbiosis between traditional ecological knowledge and ourselves as researchers, educators, thinkers, to help create a world in which we can all thrive. Our sovereignty in creating right relations with nature is the only path to freedom. And so I thank you all for being here in support of decriminalizing nature today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just wanted to name something that for me is really important here. Let's move from pairing indigenous knowledge with science, but pairing science with indigenous knowledge. Really bringing centeredness to indigenous communities and knowledge, and contributing to them with science rather than the other way around. So that's the first piece. And the other piece in that same topic is from a Western colonial white mindset. We have a tendency to other ourselves. We put ourselves outside from what needs to happen, and the invitation is to stop doing that and like be part of the movement, be part of what's happening, be part of what needs to happen. There's a lot of questions that come to us and people who are leading these movements that what are we doing? And the question for me is like, what are we doing? So don't ask me what we are doing, because we've been doing this for a long time. And the invitation is that you step in. And it's very confusing. There's a lot of stuff to navigate through. So how do you show up into these spaces? How do you, from that othering, become part of and step into realizing that this work is for all of us, not just for certain people to do it for you, right? So not just decriminalizing nature, but understanding that all the work that has been done has been led by some people, but the calling is like you step into being leaders, because I'm sure you're leaders in your communities, right? So everything that you do, if you're stepping into that space, will bring a lot more healing, because like you're learning to be part of everything that is happening, rather than stepping out and waiting for other people to do it for you or find the answers for you. Because to be honest, we don't have all the answers. You know, we're learning. I'm learning every single day. My elders are learning every single day, right? So I just wanted to speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sincerely, thank you, Yolo and Takumi and Rachel. Thank you, everyone, for being here so much. I just want to end on a few words, just kind of reiterating why we're here and letting everybody know more about our organization and what our mission is. Melanie and I and some other people here tonight worked on the campaign to decriminalize psilocybin in Denver in 2019. And following that, there was a lot of attention and momentum behind this movement. And shortly after that, the city of Oakland decriminalized all Schedule I plant medicines in June of 2019. I felt very strongly at that time that what was being said at the grassroots level by the volunteers, by the core community people that these policies most affect, was getting lost in translation to the people that were having meetings behind closed doors about what policy would continue to look like in the future. And, 2.5 years later, however, I don't even know, sorry. However many years later, now we're really seeing how much that has blown up and happened in this space. And I reached out to Decriminalize Nature in Oakland for guidance as far as how we should organize here in Colorado and make sure that the intentions of the movement stayed in the community and stayed heard. Decriminalize Nature was founded by an Indigenous person. Their board is 60% Indigenous, and so their first priority is to bring that voice into this movement and to not just include it, but to have that be what is leading what we do. We could have probably decriminalized nature in Boulder very quickly, but we didn't, because we have tried to spend this time building community and building trust and building relationships first and foremost ahead of policy. We're now campaigning statewide in response to another statewide campaign to a bill that's moving through the legislature right now. And I just want to name that and to express that when we first organized, it was really our intention to keep this really local, to encourage City of Boulder to change these policies. And we're still, you know, the momentum is here. Everybody's in this room here tonight to hopefully push that forward and address it. And then to support other local communities in doing the same thing. But in 2022, we're seeing now a legalization campaign on the ballot. And it's coming through from a group called New Approach that Yolo mentioned earlier, that we are aligned in trying to slow down and prevent from happening in the time frame that they're expressing. And a lot of this gets misunderstood as that we're, you know, against regulation or against everything that they stand for, but what we're really against is the co-opting of the movement and the out-of-state pressure to really steamroll exactly what we have right here in this room, a slow process towards decriminalizing first, building community, making sure that the medicines are not appropriated and that people do not have to buy in to a system that they have been practicing for centuries. Our policy that we have proposed at the state level is legalization, but it is not regulation and it is not taxation. It makes it lawful for people to use these medicines in the way that they always have, and that's what we stand for. It does not allow for sale, it does not allow for commodification, it does not allow for people to create centers where they're driving profit and commercializing these medicines. I get asked all the time by the media why there is infighting in the movement. And my response is always that it is not infighting, because when we call it infighting, we're not taking into account the power dynamics at play. It's co-opting. We have a really strong community here that has stood together on this decriminalize first model that we are proposing. And because we're at the center of it, we're viable for out-of-state funding and investors to come into our state and steamroll the very process that we are trying to engage in slowly, intentionally, with respect to the plants and with respect to the people that have always carried these medicines. And what I keep saying is that is what is even more problematic than this movement being co-opted. It's the co-opting of the medicines themselves when they then get forced into the regulatory models that we're seeing proposed. We're asking that people supporting regulation and taxation, commodification, corporate interest in this space, we're asking that you take a step back and give more time for us to ensure that nobody will go to prison for using these medicines. And I just want to end on one more point. We talk about expanding access. We talk about making sure these things are accessible. And like a lot of what Kasumi said, that, you know, it's all around us, and I don't know how to say it as beautifully as you did, but the medicines are accessible. People have been accessing them. But when we create these regulatory frameworks, these new approach-sponsored healing centers, we're prioritizing some new type of access over the access that has always occurred. And people practicing those models that are not licensed, that are not regulated, that are not going through whatever system is decided on by these stacked advisory panels that will seep in these policies, anybody practicing outside of that system is at risk for criminalization still under these regulatory frameworks. And so really consider what access means. Consider what we're trying to do and how we can continue to take a slow, intentional approach in this space. And thank you all for showing up to do that and to learn more about that tonight. I don't know what's next.
We have an agenda.
Oh. Yeah, I actually forgot about the technical stuff I was gonna say. We did organize 2 years ago. I founded this. I don't know what I found, IRS documents, but 2 years ago, and we've never fundraised. This is our first time raising any money. We have the same money in our bank account that we put in it 2 years ago, and so we're really grateful for everybody showing up and showing your support that way. We did set up a Venmo. It's Decrim Nature Boulder. If you'd like to donate that way, please support all the people vending tonight. Please follow us on social media. It's Decrim Nature Boulder, as well as Decrim Nature Colorado on both Instagram and Facebook. We have 2 websites, but they're not up yet. And our email address is decriminalizeBoulder@gmail.com if you'd like to reach out and introduce yourself and learn how to get connected to our volunteer forums or to just any information about what we're doing going forward. We'll be able to start petitioning soon. And even bigger than the campaign itself and the getting signatures and getting on the ballot is that we are having conversations like this, that we are having spaces like this. New Approach is not doing this. They won't speak about what's going on. They won't engage with us in conversation. And we want to have these conversations publicly so that we can educate people as to what's going on and inform our communities. So thank you for showing up to hear and to listen, and please take it in and sit with it. Myself, Rumsey, and Melanie were all wearing these Palestinian wraps, scarves, I can't remember what they're called. But if you come up to any one of us tonight, we can answer any of your questions. If you'd like to write a check, you can make it out to Decriminalize Nature, Boulder County, accepting cash. Those kinds of things that I forget about. Schedule, I don't know it. Do you know what's next?
I think we might be, it's subject to change because we definitely prioritize this conversation and community building. So just thank you for your patience. If you're wondering what's next, I think right now Rumsey was giving me the kind of it's time. And so now, again, just thank you all so much. I'm gonna stand up and ask you all to stand up. And just look around and join. I think we're gonna get some music going. And again, thank you all so much. Give it up for yourselves and for everyone here. Thank you. All right, thanks so much. All right.
A quick note. Thank you for all the vendors that are here. I have a little corner with some medicine. We call these medicine bracelets. 80% of your contributions go back to my community down in the South. Thank you for all your support. Remember, anything that you're contributing to us is actually really helping us, not just to make money, but also to be able to pay for colonial pieces, which comes through electricity, comes through gas, comes through water, comes through different things that even in the Amazon we need to have those to be able to produce our own food. You know, we've been assimilated into these ways, so any contribution is always welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we're only running about 20 minutes behind, so performers just keep that in mind. Cut it 5 short or something. Andy and Laura is the next performer.
Can I get Andy and Laura? Andy and Laura, you're on deck. All right, who's ready for some music? I said, who's ready for some music? All right, let's get the party started. Andy and Laura, let's do it.